Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to be back with you again on this beautiful Sunday, May the 24th. Boy, May is really getting by quick on us, and time is flying. It seems like the more that we've slowed down, the faster time goes. But it's pretty unique and crazy as we're going through all these slow down time with the pandemic and staying at home and all this stuff, but yet times keeps clicking on by, going fast. So glad to be with you guys this morning. I want to pick back up where we left off last week, and we'll talk about great leaders and how to be a great leader. And we're just going to jump right in it this morning. I don't want to keep you too long this morning. I do have something that I think is very important that we need to talk about today on how to be a more effective leader in our community, in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our businesses, and being a more Christ-centered leader in today's world. Boy, we do need some great leaders to step up from what's going on right now in our country. And just to give you a recap, last week we talked about Gideon and how God used an afraid, timid person with a very low self-esteem, no confidence in himself or his abilities, and how God took that man and did something incredible with him. And, if God can do something with somebody like that, what can he do with you? What can he do with a person that's obedient to him? And I really believe the big difference between being a successful leader and not a leader at all is one word. One word. That word is obedience. And that word right there has held the test of time for a long time. Matter of fact, all the people that we read about in the Bible over and over again, the biggest difference between reading about them and reading about people like us is one word: it's obedience. These people were obedient to what God told them to do, and because of that, God used them in a mighty way, and they became great leaders that we're still reading about today because of one word, that was obedience. Gideon obeyed the voice of God. Even though he was afraid, scared, timid, not sure of his own abilities, he still believed God and did what God told him to do, even though it may seem ridiculous or dangerous. And remember the couple things, just to recap last week, what was some things that Gideon did that seemed ridiculous to him, that seemed dangerous to him, that didn't make any sense to him? Just think about the first thing God told him to do was tear down those idols in his house. Those idols of Baal that his father and his family had constructed in their own house. He said, you got to get rid of that stuff. That stuff has got to go. If I'm going to use you, if I'm going to make something great out of it, first thing you got to do is clean your own house. And we talked about that last week. And then here's the crazy stuff. He had men that came to follow him. 32,000 men got behind him to follow him. And God told him, and they were up against 135,000 the Midianites, and God told him they had too many men. So he told him to get rid of some, told him the ones that didn't want to be there, go home. Well, 22,000 men left. It left him with 10,000 men to fight 135,000 Midianites. That seemed crazy, ridiculous. But guess what? God said, you still got too many. You got too many men. So, of course, he set the test going down to the creek and the brook, and to the ones that lapped with their knee and looking up. He kept the ones that slammed their face down the water and drank. He let them go. He only kept 300 men. 300 men Gideon took with him to battle 135,000 Midianites. And to make it a step further, to add craziness to what God was asking him, he said, I want you to go to war with no weapons. No guns, no knives, no swords, no spears, no weapons. Take a pitcher, take a trumpet, and take a torch. I mean, God sent him into battle with no weapons. Wow, 300 men against 135,000 men, no weapons. Sounds crazy, right? But see, Gideon did one thing. He trusted God and was obedient. And look what God did for him. God did something miraculous in his life. And I believe today God's trying to tell us he wants us to be miraculous leaders as well. We just have to be willing to be obedient. Being a great leader doesn't mean that you'll never be scared or even doubt, but being a great leader means that you will be obedient to God and let him be responsible for the results. When God's responsible for the results, it can never go wrong. It means you'll trust God even though it may seem it goes against what the world or even your own friends or family might think. Being a great leader means that you'll be led by example, not just by your words. You'll live what you preach, and you'll do what you're called to do. Before we get started talking about the greatest leader that ever lived and looking at the examples he left us, I want to share with you 5 principles today. 5 principles that I believe if you apply them to your life, it will change you into a great leader that will be able to reach and influence others in your lifetime. And you might be sitting there thinking, so Brian, I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to be a leader. That's something I just don't desire to do. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Whether you want to be a leader or not, you are. Um, you're either being led or you're a leader. Which one do you think you're going to be? You got family, you got kids, you got people you work with, you got people that you're involved with, you got neighbors, there's all kind of people that you're involved with. You have an opportunity to influence them in a positive, correct way, which makes you a leader. And even though you might not want to be a leader, God has called us to step out. Like Gideon, he was hiding in the wine press. He was hiding, threshing wheat, afraid, scared. God called him, said, "You are a mighty man of valor." God is calling us as men and women right now, saying, "You know what? I know what's inside of you. I know what's inside of you." The Bible tells us, "As greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world." What do you have inside of you? It's time for us to release the Holy Spirit and allow him to teach us and use us to be the leaders he's called us to be. I've been studying a lot on leadership here lately from John Maxwell, one of the greatest leadership teachers that has ever been, one of the most gifted speakers and biblical, God-fearing men. I love, if you can get any books by John Maxwell, I advise you to read them. I've read them a few times, skimmed through them a few times, but here I've been doing a deep dive into them lately. And John Maxwell talked about a rule of 5 that all leaders, good leaders, to become a good leader, he talked about the rule of 5. And he gave an example, said, if you have a tree in your backyard and you have an axe, and if you go out every day and swing 5 times with your axe at that tree, what will eventually happen to that tree? It's going to fall eventually, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, if you go out 5 times a day, one time a day, swing your axe 5 times, eventually, over a period of time, the tree's going to fall. Now, the tree may be big. It may take you years for the tree to fall, or you might be able to knock it down. It might be a smaller tree. But whatever it is, if you're consistent with what you're doing every day, you go out there and swing that axe 5 times, the tree's going to fall. So he says, well, what's your tree? What's the thing? What's your goals in your life? What's your purpose? What do you want to accomplish, or what do you want to knock down? Then you need to find what your axe is. What are your tools that you'll use effectively to go after your goal? And the word that he said that really spoke volumes to me was every day. I'm like, every day? What do you mean by every day? Well, I mean by every day. On your birthdays, on Sundays, on holidays, when you're not feeling well. Every day, it's time for us to get consistent about what we're doing and what we're called to do. Being a leader, you can't take days off when it comes to this. We're in a spiritual battle every day. And anytime that we let our guard down, anytime we put our shield down, anytime we don't put our armor on, we have an enemy that's out there trying to destroy us. And y'all know as well as I do, you can live a life of integrity. You can live a life of honesty. You can live a life of success, but it only takes one time. Just ask King David. It only takes one time to bring it all to a halt. So we can't afford to let our guards down when we're in this battle every day. So one thing he said is we overestimate what we can do in one day, and we underestimate what we can do in several days. I've done that so many times. I've tried to cram so much in my schedule in one day and just try to fill it full of things, thinking I'm going to get all this done in one day. And of course, at the end of the day, when I only got a third of it done, I feel defeated and discouraged. Whereas this principle is, if you'll put a little on your plate every day and stay consistent about doing it, consistent every day about doing it, you will chop that tree down. It will fall. You will reach your goal. You will be successful. So the first principle that he teaches in the rule of 5 is something that's very, very important. People, when you think about leading other people, you think about other people. You think about, I need people to follow me. I need to get people behind me. I need to get a bigger class. I need to get people coming in here. I need to grow a bigger company. I need to have a bigger organization. I need to have a bigger group. You know what? The thing that we forget about is the first person we need to learn how to lead is ourselves. The very first person to becoming a good leader is learn how to lead yourself. A lot of us can't be good leaders because we can't lead ourselves. When we think of leadership, like I said, we think of leading other people's. Listen, leadership starts on the inside. It starts with us. Let me ask you this. If you wouldn't follow your own self, then who else would follow you? If you wouldn't even follow your own self. I remember I had a boss one time that I worked at Mike Patton years ago, and he said something that was just crazy to me, and I've just thought about that. He said, you know what? I wouldn't work for myself for 1 second. Wow, what kind of leader was he? He wouldn't even work for his own self, but yet he expected people to follow him. You know what? You're not going to get many people to follow you if you can't even follow your own self. I'm talking about leading by example, guys. Having the qualities and values in yourself that you want to teach someone else. Being a visual leader. Let me tell you something. People do what people see. And y'all know that. There's so much more caught than taught. You know, I can tell my kids, don't do this, don't do that. But if dad's doing that, it's not right. So much more is caught than taught. The law of magnetism says that we attract who we are, not what we want. Now you know why all your friends are crazy. You attract who you are. That's scary enough, isn't it, right there? We teach what we know, but we reproduce what we are. What are you? Are you a person of integrity? Are you a person of honesty? Are you a person that is driven by godly principles? What are you? You teach and you reproduce what you are. You teach what you know, but you reproduce what you are. Why do you think that God told Gideon to search his own house first before he could lead others? He had to get rid of those idols. He had to get rid of the things that was keeping him from being the man that God's called him to be. And when we have other idols in front of God, like Gideon did in his own household, he had to get rid of that stuff before he could actually be a leader of other people. He had to be able to lead himself. Before we can be the leaders that God knows we can lead, we must learn how to lead ourselves. James Allen said that people are anxious to improve their circumstances, but they're not anxious to improve themselves, and therefore they remain bound. Isn't that incredible? People want to improve the circumstances they're in, but they don't want to do anything to improve themselves. The best preachers and teachers and leaders get their passion, power, and skills from living what they're teaching. I'm telling you, the most passionate I've ever been in my life is when I'm doing what I'm teaching, when I'm practicing what I'm teaching, when I'm living what I'm teaching. That's when the passion and the power comes out, is when you're actually living what you're talking about. So number one, the first rule is lead yourself, okay? Number two, this is something that I think will change your life. It will make you be the most influential leader in your communities, in your neighborhoods, in your churches, in your businesses, wherever you are, is add value to other people. Add value to them. I mean, that sounds very simple, but I'm going to tell you what, it's not easy to do because we're so self-focused on ourselves, on what we want, why we want it, when we want it, how we can get it, how fast we can get it. We're so focused on self that we leave others behind. That's not how Jesus taught us as Christians to act. I loved the little analogy of what they said. Joy stands for is Jesus first, others second, yourself last. Jesus also told us if we're going to be a follower of him, we must first deny what? Ourselves. Take up our cross and follow him. So I'm telling you, add value to other people. There's a guy that I studied a lot in sales. Y'all probably heard of him. I know, Dad, you've heard of him before. His name's Zig Ziglar. Zig taught people that if you help enough people achieve their goals, that they'd always help you achieve yours. And I believe that's true. If you focus on helping somebody else achieve their goals, get to their goals, get to their objections, overcome them, if you help enough people do that, you'll always get what you want or achieve your own goals. I truly believe that if you'll focus helping other people, then they'll help you. And that's an amazing thing. And not that your focus is to get them to help you. It's truly helping other people. Leaders focus on others first. One thing that'll help you focus on others and add value to them is every day ask yourself, who can I add value to and how can I add value to them? And every evening when you sit down before you go to bed, you ask yourself the same question. Who did I add value to and how did I do it? Did I add value to that person today and how did I do it? It starts with training your mind to put others first. And like I said, that's exactly what Jesus told us to do. Let me tell you something. We have an opportunity every day, and it seems like we miss the boat on this. Let me ask you a question. How many people do you talk to in any given day where you have an opportunity to be kind, generous, compassionate, nice, encouraging, uplifting? How many people every day do we pass by or that we see even on social media, we talk to on the phone, that we have an opportunity to do those things? And let me ask you something really important. How much does it cost you to be nice? What does it cost you to be encouraging? What does it cost you to be uplifting, to generous? What does it cost us? It costs us nothing. It costs us zero, maybe a little time, maybe a little inconvenience, but it costs us nothing to be that. But the benefits that come our way because of being that way are incredible. You want people to follow you? Start encouraging them. You want people to listen to what you have to say? Add value to them. Uplift them. Be nice to them. Be generous to them. Be compassionate to them. Now, let me ask you this. A lot of people say, well, how do I add value to people? What are some things that I can do? I'm going to give you 3 things that will help you add value to other people. Very simple things that I want to tell you about. First thing is I value people when I really value people. Folks, you got to really care about people. Not for your own benefit, not for what you can get for them, but really care about people. See, if I don't value people, then I'll naturally take advantage of them. And that's the problem, is when we start taking advantage of people, we really don't value them. When's the last time you thanked somebody for just doing their job? When's the last time you thanked somebody for the small detailed things they do every day? When's the last time you encouraged somebody, uplifted somebody, patted them on the back, gave them praise? My dad used to tell me all the time, so every old dog likes a pat on his head every once in a while. When's the last time you gave somebody a pat on the head? It will go a long, long way. One word of encouragement goes a long, long way. We have no idea what people are going through on a day-to-day basis. We don't know if they're battling illnesses or sicknesses or financial hardships or problems with their marriage or their children or things going on in their life. We have no idea. One word of encouragement can change everything. And I'm just telling you, you change somebody's life and you got somebody that'll follow you. You got somebody that'll listen to you, somebody that will believe in you and will also help you too. Number 2, I must know and relate to what they value. I must know and relate to what they value. The only way I can know this is by listening to them and learning, asking questions, listening twice as much as I talk. My God, I need help with that so much. That's why God give us 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much as we talk. Guys, we'll never know what people value unless we listen to them. If we're always talking over somebody, we're always telling our opinion, we're always telling what we know. Listen to people, talk to them, and listen to what they value. When we know what other people value, then we know about them. And when we know about them, we care more about them. When we care more about them, we value them more. So number 1, we value other people. Number 2, I must know and relate what they value. Number 3, I must make myself more valuable. I must be more valuable today than I was yesterday. I must be growing and learning, and so I can add value to people's lives more than I did yesterday. I have to keep growing and getting better in order to continue adding value to others. The reason why we can't add value to others is because we haven't grown any ourselves. The only way that I can be valued to someone tomorrow is learn something new today. When is the last time you learned something new? We'll talk about that more in just a second, okay? So, first thing we do is lead ourselves. Number 2, we add value to others. Number 3, we study leadership and other great leaders. If you want to be a great leader, if you want to be a leader, we got to study the things that make us a good leader. We got to study people that make us a good leader. And we're going to talk about one next week. The greatest leader that ever walked is Jesus Christ. That's the first one I'd start with. Study him. Study his life. Study how he valued people. Study what he did for people. Study what he was constantly doing to make himself the greatest leader of all time. Why do you think people followed him everywhere? A lot of people followed him for the miracles, because of what he could do for them. But you know what? A lot of people followed him because of what he said and what he lived and what he believed. And Jesus lived what he believed. He was a great leader. He led himself. He added value to others. And I'm telling you something. He always spent time with the Father, studying leadership and studying great leaders, which was his Father. Earl Nightingale said that if you'll take, listen to this is pretty amazing. If you'll take 1 hour a day and study a certain subject, within 5 years, you'll be a world-known expert on that subject. Is that not incredible? 1 hour a day and study a certain subject for 5 years, you'll be a world-known expert in that subject. And I started thinking about that. How much time in a day do I waste watching Netflix, on Facebook, on my cell phone, playing mindless games that mean nothing? How much time in a given day, if I added it all up, do I spend doing things that are not productive? What if I just spent 1 hour being productive? How much difference would it make? Wow. If I did that for 6 months, a year, 5 years, what difference would that make in my life? It's unbelievable. Great leaders are always studying on how to be better. They're never okay with not growing. Let me ask this. When's the last time you read a book? When's the last time you watched an educational video, invested time on improving yourselves? One thing that I do know is readers are leaders. If you're reading and you're studying and you're getting better, you have an opportunity to be a great leader. Also, here's another thing. Hang out with people that are smarter, more educated, more driven, more talented, and more experienced than you are. My goodness gracious. It's been said that you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. If that doesn't scare you enough to change, then I don't know what will. You think about the 5 people you hang out with the most. You're the average of those 5 people. It's pretty scary, isn't it? People seldom change when they have no other examples to follow other than themselves. Think about that. Find people that are God-fearing, Bible-believing, faith-practicing men and women and study and learn from them. Okay? Number 4, not only do I study leadership, I must practice leadership. Practice. I'm not like Allen Iverson here saying, practice. Practice? Why do we have to practice? Let me tell you something. How do you think professionals in any sport or business got to where they are today? Hours upon hours upon hours of practice. Practice, practice, practice. Let me give you an example. When I first started college, man, I tried to skip speech class. I told you this, guys, over and over and over again. I did not want to do it. I did not want to do it. I was tried my best to avoid it. But once I said, all right, I got to do this speech in front of this class of all my peers, my age, I was nervous as real. I took that speech. I wrote it out. I got in front of a mirror. I practiced in front of my roommates. I memorized that thing. I bet I said that speech 50 times before I got to the class. And when I got to the class, I crushed it. I mean, I was so confident. I had the down pat. Everything flowed because I had practiced and practiced and practiced. I mean, the same thing with baseball. When I played baseball, you can ask my dad. For hours upon hours upon hours, I was sitting there throwing that baseball in the garage at that home plate I'd made with tape right there, bouncing it against the fireplace, and the ball bouncing back to me. Hours upon hours upon hours, and I got pretty good at it. It was good enough to pay for my whole college education. I went 5 years of college, never paid a dime of tuition because of hours upon hours upon hours of practicing baseball. Okay? Same thing with driving. My son's just got his license. You know how many hours and hours and hours of practice he got before he can get behind that wheel and feel confident enough to drive himself? You'll never become a leader that God intended you without practicing. And let me tell you something. This is the process. You're going to practice, you're going to fail, you're going to get up again. You're going to practice, you're going to fail, you're going to get back up again. You're going to practice, you're going to fail, you're going to get back up again. That's just part of this life, is getting back up and moving forward, practicing, changing, fixing the things you made mistakes on, and continuing to get better. That's what professionals do. That's what leaders do. They practice, they fail, they get back up, they learn, they move forward. If you're going to be a great leader, you can't be afraid of failure. And I'll tell you this, remember, failure is not falling down. Failure is staying down. Just because you failed doesn't make you a failure. Making you a failure is staying down. Okay? One thing else I do know about this is practice brings confidence. Somebody was telling a story about Jack Nicklaus, and they asked him about making pressure putts in major golf events. And some guy was interviewing him. He said, Jack, do you ever get nervous when you're making that putt right there, you know, to win the championship? Does he ever make you nervous? He said something really, really extraordinary to me. He said, no, I never get nervous. The guy said, how can you not get nervous? He said, because that little 9-foot putt right there that breaks a little bit to the left, I've done that 10,000 times. I practiced that putt 10,000 times. Practice brings confidence. And when we get out, guys, and we invest our time to practice, we'll be confident. You want to be a better father? You want to be a better husband? You want to be a better soul winner, an employee, a friend, maybe a neighbor. You want to be a better boss, you better be a leader. Then start practicing today. Don't wait. Start practicing these things, okay? Step number 5, and we're done. We're going to wrap it up, is lead myself. I want to add value to others. study leadership, practice leadership, and the fifth thing is I want to intentionally grow every day. Every day I want to improve some area in my life. Listen, every day I want to look forward to new challenges and meet them with a positive attitude and excitement of experiencing and learning something new. I want to put myself in a situation where failure is a possibility. But by being obedient, it's being more important than my fear of failure is being obedient. I want to experience life to the fullest, and I believe that's exactly what Jesus said. John 10:10, he says, the thief comes but to steal, kill, and destroy, but I am come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. When I'm green, I'm growing, guys, but when I'm ripe, I'm rotten, okay? I want to always be growing, learning, and experiencing to the day I die. Folks, that's living. You know, there's some people that are already dead. They just hadn't made it official yet. They've stopped growing. They've stopped trying. They've stopped trying to reach and learn it and become and get better. Let me tell you something, guys. One thing we've learned in the past few months is during this pandemic and stoppage of a lot of our businesses, we have more time right now than we've ever had. Time. Something that we normally don't have because of the busyness of our life and schedules. I believe God has given us time so we can grow. So we can slow down, get rid of the distractions, get rid of the things of the world's coming at us every day, and we can focus on Him and we can grow. What have you done with the time that you've had, the time God's given you? What have you done? Guys, God has called you, men and women of His children, to be leaders in the sinful world. It's so way past time for us to step up and be the leaders God's called us to be. But I'm telling you, if you practice these 5 principles every day, you learn how to lead yourself. You learn how to add value to others. You study leadership and other great leaders. We practice every day. We practice. And then we intentionally grow. We do something every day that pushes us and stretches us and grows us every day. I promise you, people will get behind you. They'll follow you. Just like Paul. Paul led by example. Paul led by example in his life, and he had many young preachers and teachers follow behind him. Timothy was one. Barnabas was another. There's a lot of them that followed Paul because he was able to lead himself. Starting off with leading yourself. Guys, thank you for being with me today, and I love you guys. I miss you. I can't wait for us to be back together. Let's pray right now, and we'll end this thing. Father God, thank you for another day. Thank you for this time together, Lord. Lord, help us as we go through these trying times in this difficult world, Lord, to look to you for our focus, our energy, God, for our wisdom. God, help us to be better leaders in this world today. God, you know every prayer request in our class, God, the ones that are battling cancer, the ones that are hurting financially, the ones that are hurting physically, the ones that are hurting emotionally, God, the things going on right now, Lord, in our world. God, we lift them all up to you. Lord, we thank you, we love you, and we praise your name, God, as you're still on the throne and you're still in control. Help us to focus on you, Father. Leave the distractions up behind so we can be the leaders you've called us to be. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Love you guys. Have a great Sunday.